All right, so today was an especially spicy day at Evil Corp. The day started out with a note asking me to document my work based on conversations that I've had. That's not the way you want to start your morning, but that's not the way it would stay. It was going to get a lot worse before it got a lot better. So I had three distinct conversations with three different coworkers today. The very first one, I just pulled it into the parking lot and it was a classic millennial steam. This doesn't work. And it didn't stop there. That was just the first time in the day in which there was network problems, there were server problems, there were people problems, there were problems everywhere. And the worst part is we don't have a whole lot of solutions. So after I got done dealing with that problem with a connectivity issue, then I had to figure out what was going on with the rest of the office stuff. Nothing would work correctly. And so I got on the phone with another guy in my group and I explained to him what was going on, why we couldn't do our job, and he just seemed to scratch his head like, well, it worked Friday and we made a lot of changes since then, but nothing was working today, and it wasn't just me. You fast forward from that conversation into another conversation I'm having with another coworker, and he said that this type of environment is the kind of environment that makes people go insane. And we started talking about the show Severance because Mello and I were talking about this scene where a woman goes into these different rooms and does menial tasks repeatedly, on repeat, over and over again, without having any memory of the other tasks that she had done. So I was talking to my coworker about that particular scene, and he's a big fan of the show, obviously. And I said to him, you know what? A work environment like this could turn a man to the drink. And he's like, I already beat you there, millennial steam. I've become a very, very big drinker in the last few months. And that takes me from that conversation, I segue into walking into the ivory tower. I had to go up there to do some minor work, drop off some stuff, but I couldn't leave without talking to my favorite office worker. So I'm walking down the hallway looking at all the people inside of their little bubbles, right? And as you're walking past them, they look at you as if you're an intruder. Everyone can see everyone because there is no walls, it's just all glass. It feels like miles and miles worth of glass where people are sitting inside of futuristic torture chambers. And so I finally get to where she's at. I walk in and she says to me, "Oh, not so loud, Millennial Sting." She's on the phone. She sits so close to her office mate that she could reach over and pat her on the shoulder at any moment during the day. So I tell her that I was just here to check up on her just to make sure that everything was okay. And then she gives me like the little girl look, right? She acts she acts she gets shy for a second. Then she bats her eyes at me. Then she turns in her chair slightly, and it's just like it was like hee hee hee. It was funny as hell because I think she's I'm gonna say early 30s, but she's always had this reaction to me. And as I was getting ready to leave, she's like, "It's really good to see you. You should come and visit me more often." And I'm like, "Wow, well, I'm off to be dumb somewhere else, right?" That's how my morning went. The afternoon was even more strange. Like the strangeness of the problems that we couldn't solve just got worse, progressively worse, as more and more things got broken. All right, with that said, let's get into our opening monologue via ChatGPT, the greatest scriptwriter in the world. You don't need to get fired to feel like you're disappearing. Corporate America just quietly edits you out. Day by day, you learn to speak less, feel less, need less. You show up on time, hit your numbers, smile through exhaustion, and they call it professionalism. But really, it's just survival in a system that rewards silence over soul. I think that a lot of us, and even myself, there have been times where I've been sitting in my office and I just don't want to talk to anyone. I just want to sit there quietly and bounce from mindless task to mindless task. 1 minute I'm buying something, the next minute I'm checking on shipping, the next minute I'm looking at what I should do next because I have three or four different things happening simultaneously. That's the big part of my job that's really difficult to cope with because as the first senior manager would tell me every single day for his very short tenure at Evil Corp, it's like when everything's an emergency, nothing is an emergency. So from checking on accounts that need to be uh, adjusted, and then you look at your email, and then there's someone in there needing this. Then you have a person in HR who's locked himself out of his computer, and then I have another office in another state calling me that they need this particular product for this person, or this system went down, or there's a million different things that happen in my day. At any given moment, I will be required to do what I would call an emergency repair. And that can mean not only a new system, but also anything having to do with technology can happen at a moment's notice at this job. And it puts you in a constant state of panic. I think that's what my job is. I don't know what's going to happen from moment to moment. I have no real job. Like that's the big part about working at Evil Corp is when everyone does everything, it feels like almost an impossible task, right? Every day it's not just working in one job. You're working in so many different areas that you become overwhelmed. Like the shoulder taps are constant, and you kind of expect to never be comfortable in a job like this. You never expect to be like, okay, today I'm going to come in, I'm just going to do this one job. No, it's everything to everyone, and everyone knows your name. Because at a corporation this big, and there's only one person that does my job at Evil Corp. So whether you're the lowest level or the highest level, there's only one name that you know when it comes to getting what you want. It's mine. Talking point number one. Corporate environments don't need to fire you when they can slowly strip away your voice, confidence, and sense of self. Over time, workers stop asking questions, stop expressing emotion, and start playing the role expected of them just to survive. This isn't incompetence, it's a psychological conditioning disguised as professionalism. Well, this is the second time it has come that professionalism has come into ChatGPT's script here because what I used as the prompt in order to generate this script was just three interactions with three different coworkers today. For some reason, this is how it chose to write it. I'm not certain what changed, but I wrote this from the point of what did I write this from the point of a tired engineer, female engineer, and I didn't like how corny it was, and so I switched it to write this script as a poor woman, single, living on the edge of starvation. That's a hell of a prompt. That's why I'm kind of curious as to why it built it like this. So I don't really have anything to say about this talking point. So we're moving on to talking point number two. Many workplaces operate on subtle threats: fear of being replaced, fear of retaliation, fear of being labeled difficult. This creates a culture where obedience is valued more than innovation. People stay quiet, not because they don't care, but because speaking up feels dangerous when you're living paycheck to paycheck. That is very true. When you work in an environment where you're never supposed to complain, right? And you become that person that complains, well, you put a bullseye right on your forehead. Corporate America doesn't like people who complain. That's why, even though there's so many problems on a day to day basis that everyone is aware of, we all kind of just work around it. There's no real fix, there's just a workaround. And everyone that you know is always looking for a workaround because you don't want to be that guy. You don't want to be the guy that keeps saying it's this is broken, this is broken, this is broken. You just want to find a workaround. I would say 99% of my job is just finding a workaround. But every once in a while, someone will stop and be like, "Can I make a suggestion?" And I'm like, "You can suggest all you want." But the workarounds are the way that things work here because you're a paycheck to paycheck kind of guy. In fact, this morning I was talking to one of the guys in my group. Remember, I work alone. The group is the external part of this group. The people that actually sit in the call center taking mindless calls all day long. That those are the people I'm talking about. Those people that have to get that call. It's like, oh, my password doesn't work. This doesn't work. I just provide support to them. I don't actually do the day to day grind. I don't think I could sit in a call center all day long talking to these people and feeling like my brain was melting out of my ears. Because sometimes I'll get on the phone with these guys. And this hasn't happened to me once or twice or three times. Over the course of the years that I've been here, it's become a regular thing where people just call me from the group because they just need a break from the mindless nature of answering phone calls all day. And they get tired, especially when you don't have a solution for them. Like it's just there's something about the endless nature of call center work that it is mind-numbing, dehumanizing. It feels like it never ends. When I first started working there, my recruiter called me and she asked me, how's the job? And I said to her, um, it's like a conveyor belt to infinity. And all day long, the conveyor belt come dolls, do- dolls with no heads. And so they get to my desk, I attach the doll head, and then I move on to the next one for infinity. And she's like, "Oh my God, that's super dark, Millennial Steam. Are you okay?" And I'm like, "No one's okay. We're all faking it for the McPaycheck." That's what we do all day long at every evil corp across America, right? We fake it because we need money. No one actually likes their job. No one actually likes their coworkers. No one actually likes what they do, but it's unfortunate that we don't have a system that's designed to uplift people. The only people in our society that get to enjoy their lives are rich people. In fact, I was thinking about that this afternoon is that for every rich person that is on vacation right now, there's 100 slaves having to do work in order for them to be able to afford that vacation. You don't get to go on vacation anymore as the working poor. Vacations are now reserved for people that are better than us. The people that can say, you know what, I'm going to go buy a new car right now, or I want a new house, or I'd like to get married, or I don't want to work anymore. Like, even if your work isn't that hard and you have thousands of slaves working away for you at Evil Corp, generating your record profits every year, they can make those decisions. You and I can't. You and I are going to work until they put us in the Pine Box retirement community because that's what proles do. And it's funny, I was talking to Mello the other day, and she was telling me about the story of the Derby horse. We were talking about that over lunch, and she's like, "Yep." For some reason, one of the saddest things that when I first met Mello, right, it was a year ago. One of the saddest stories she told me first off the bat of meeting her was the tragedy of the Derby horse. So when the Derby horse is racing, that's in the Kentucky Derby. I think that's where she was watching. Is that once that horse is no longer able to race, they humanely put it down. That's exactly what we do with humans. Once humans can't work, well, they work until they can't work. And then society humanely puts you down. Because what good is a prole that can't work? If you can't make record profits, for Evil Corp, what good are you? You're a waste of time and money. I mean, when it comes down to it, most of us aren't very useful for anything. I know I have no use. I have no use to myself. I have no use to anyone else. I'm a waste of human skin. but unfortunately, I have to keep eating. It's like what someone said in my comments section the other day. More people are losing hope. They're unable to cope, and the rope feels like it's calling people. It's always calling because in Canada, I believe that you can go into the pod if you become homeless. It's like one of the criterias in order to get rid of the forever pain is being homeless. And so if you meet the criteria, they'll let you hop right into the pod because remember, once you become homeless, what good are you to society? You can't consume, you are a burden on society because you need help. There's no point in keeping people around that can't work. It's just the world that we live in. The world is very, very cruel to you when you don't have money, when you don't have a career, when you don't have aspirations. Let's face it, most of us will never have a career. I've never had a career job. I mean, every job I've ever gone to has been McDonald's plus. It's like, do you want fries in the bag, little bro? Sure. Give me a double order of fries. That's all we're ever going to do. There isn't there's nothing out there to lift us out of poverty. In fact, oh my God, this is one of the saddest things I saw today. I was driving home from work today, and I had to stop in to get some love right from the gas station. So I stopped in, and I'm standing there waiting to buy the thing that I needed inside the lady's little booth. And then a well dressed guy in a BMW, looked pretty new. He was wearing cowboy boots. That's what really stood out to me because I was wearing Birkenstocks. And he looks at my shoes, and I look at his shoes, and I look at his car, and he looks at my car, and walks up to the gas station attendant and says, "Hey, I need 10 lottery tickets, 10 scratcher tickets." And I thought to myself, a guy driving that car wearing those shoes is buying lottery tickets. The hope is dead, people. As dead is my career and my aspirations to ever own anything. Because if someone that wealthy, or potentially that wealthy, that can afford to drive that $80,000 vehicle and wear those $500 cowboy boots, if that guy's buying lottery tickets, I think it's the canary in the coal mine. We're all screwed. All right, let's get to talking point number three. Terms like culture fit or team player are often used to include people who think differently, act authentically, or challenge the system. Workers who are poor, neurodivergent, outspoken, or emotionally affected by injustice are slowly pushed out, not by termination, but by being ignored, overburdened, or gaslit until they leave on their own. Boy, ChatGPT, I'm pretty dark, but I would have never gone with neurodivergent in this script. But I mean, most of us are. I was walking through Walmart this afternoon, and like I saw a manager talking to an employee as if they were neurodivergent. When I worked at Walmart for all those years, it was commonplace for the general manager to yell at you and humiliate you in front of the customers, humiliate you in front of your coworkers. It was just the way he dealt with stupid people. And believe me, there's the vast majority of people who work at an evil corp aren't there because they're brilliant or they're better than this job. Most of these people work there because it's all they can find. No one wants to work. We just find the easiest work that we can do for the highest amount of money that we can do, that we can get, and we accept the humiliation. We accept being yelled at like we're five for for crapping our pants. That's what it felt like every time I got yelled at by a manager throughout my entire life, or humiliated by a manager, or put down by a manager. It's because that's what they do. That's how they treat people. That's how they like to treat people. In fact, I was having a conversation with the one of the office presidents from another state. I don't remember what state she's in, but I think it's like Kentucky or Nebraska. Anyhow, we're on the phone, and she's looking at messages that she's getting from people in her office, And someone messages her and that the office is too cold. And she reads that to me and she's like, why don't they just freaking hug themselves in order to warm each other up? And I thought, oh my God, that's a manager. That's a manager right there, answering the way that a manager wishes they could. Because that's honestly the way they feel about the proletariat. Oh, the proletariat's cold down here? Well, guess what? Just hug each other for warmth. That'll fix everything. All right, let's close this out. They don't hand you a pink slip anymore. They hand you a script, a way to act, a way to feel, a way to exist that keeps the machine running and your spirit on mute. But I don't want to be another ghost behind a desk, nodding through the decay. I want to remember who I was before this place tried to erase me. If you do too, maybe it's time we start speaking like we matter because we do. That reminds me so much of one of the salespeople said to me one time. It's like, we train these people here to say what we tell them to say, to think what we want them to think. When they call customers, we want them to say exactly what we tell them. You're not supposed to go off script. You're supposed to do exactly what we tell you, what the training was created to do. The way she said it to me made me feel like they didn't even want people working in that department. They wanted people that smiled in their cubicles and took phone calls all day long as mindless robots. Because I remember there's another time she said to me, Millennials team, I can train anyone to do this job. They just have to listen. And while my other friend who worked in sales at another place that got fired still hasn't found a job. It's been a year and she still hasn't found a job. And she said to me, the sales managers would actively tell us to lie to people, to tell them to buy products that weren't even available in their area in order to get our sales number. Because when those people called to complain about why they got sold a service that they couldn't use, it would be someone else that they would be talking to. The salespeople were just there to make the sale, regardless of what they had to do, because their commission was based on how good their sales were, not on how honest they are. Because let's be honest, if the world were truly to be honest with the proletariat, it would tell you that we're only needed as human cattle.